What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 254 of Littleroot Lessons. I am Uncle Vic Fangio's favorite nephew, and today I am joined by Carter as we dive into a Victory Road tournament today.
Are you sure it's 254?
Yeah, I'm sure it's 254. I
Okay.
double checked.
Okay.
I'm not.
You're right.
I'm not drunk, so
No comment.
no comment. First of all, before we dive into it, how have you been, buddy?
I am struggling. So I haven't talked about it on the podcast, but I feel like this is probably the best time to do so.
Kind of thematically fitting as well.
I have been playing Blue Kaizo again, and if everything goes right, I'm going to try to stream my Elite Four run on Friday.
Okay. Do you have
I haven't narrowed down a time yet.
That was my
or
question.
anything else, but yeah, just be on the lookout for like a Discord announcement or like a Twitter announcement or Blue Sky. I'm sure it'll be on all of them.
I will actually load up the Twitter again to make sure it gets there. And yes, like for those of you who have forgotten, the Twitter's pretty much donezo because of the owner being a not great person. And I think that's the most I'm allowed to say as I drink a full bottle of wine out of the bottle. But yeah, we are fully on Blue Sky, so follow us there for better announcements.
So for those who aren't aware, my documentation for this game has been for the last several years has been a single Word document with everything compiled on it, and like your teams have just been, here's the Pokemon listed. About a month ago, Bugford, who is a streamer, please go follow him, he is fantastic, posted a tweet saying that there was new documentation for this game. So I finally have like good documentation. I have a working damage calculator, and like talking to the people who have actually beaten it. There are 4 people who have beaten it under the hardcore Nuzlocke rules, which is no items in battle, always on set mode, etc., etc. Right? There are 4 people who have done it at this point, and for the longest time, a lot of people considered it to be completely impossible, including myself, which is why I quit doing it after like 50 attempts. So this is my first attempt back since getting all the new like documentation and everything. Talking to them, they're all like, hey, just give yourself master balls, because like losing an encounter to explosion sucks, so just like mitigate that and just everyone does it. I'm like, cool, perfect, you've locked me in. So this is technically like attempt like 92 or something, but like with the new rule set and everything, it's I'm calling it attempt 1. This run has been absolutely insane, and I think regardless of what happens, I'm probably going to end up making a video on it, because this run has just been, it should have died multiple times, I feel like. And like I've talked to you and Jay about it a couple different times, and just the amount of things that have just gone incredibly right for me to make it this far is absurd. There are, I think, like 12 fights in Victory Road, and I've been planning them for a week and a half.
No, like I remember, so like, and Carter's not kidding. We spent a solid 20 minutes post pod last episode trying to workshop like a couple of these fights in terms of like the options that he would have. The amount of work that goes into getting these hardcore Nuzlocke battles, especially when you get to the end game portion of Victory Road and the Elite Four, it's absolutely crazy.
And like that's there also has been a couple new like things that have happened within the game as well. Bugford and Pori, is it Pori Morph? I don't want to screw up her name. I want to say it's Pori Morph. Let me confirm. Yes. Also another fantastic streamer. Please go subscribe to her. Please go watch her. She is fantastic. They actually built in a new portable PC system to the game as well. So like that was one of the biggest complaints is the Koga split. You have to do like Rocket Hideout, Pokemon Tower, and then routes 12, 13, 14, 15, and then 18, 17, 16 to get Fly to be able to fly into Fuchsia. So all like if you need to change your team on Cycling Road, you had to go all the way back to Lavender. So they programmed in a portable PC, which also just like completely revolutionizes the game. This game is there is way more documentation and information about this game than there's ever been before. If you don't know who he is, one of the larger Pokemon streamers is his name is Squirk. He has been playing this game like since the documentation has come out and everything. He has wiped 4 times in the last like month to the Elite Four. he has lost to every single Elite Four member once, and just watching him have to struggle and just like replay the entire game to make it one more fight is just absolutely absurd. And the mental on this guy is insane. But I'm really hoping that everything goes right, and Friday I'm finally free from this mortal realm that is Blue Kaizo. I've said it once and I'll say it again. This is the best game I've ever played that I would never recommend to anyone.
You mean like the time, like Dark Souls, which we only recommend to the people that we hate, like Carter.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah,
I'm very excited to. I told Carl like last week. I'm like, I'm pretty sure this run is going to die in the Elite Four, and I'm really hoping that's not the case. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, and there's very few things that can go right for it to actually happen. But I guess we'll figure it out on Friday. So, yeah, just be on the lookout for that information if and when it goes live. Hopefully, I can get through Victory Road tonight and then spend the rest of the week planning for the last 5 fights of the game.
yeah. And so while you were doing that, I also had my own little like Victory Road related non VGC Pokemon thing. As members of the community, I've mentioned on the pod a few times before. I got a little too much into Pokemon TCG Pocket, and I've actually for like a free to play player have gotten like I can play most of the high end like top tier decks. I think the only one I can't really.
That reminds me, I haven't opened packs today.
Yeah, I just opened my pack like an hour ago. But yeah, so I went I entered my first Pokemon Pocket like tour today. Victory Road hosted it off on Limitless. Went 3-3 drop, but it was fun. Played the Aerodactyl EX fighting type toolbox. My Aerodactyl was camera shy. I went and streamed it the Cats team building server with the usual suspects of guests I pull on when Carter, Carl, and Jay aren't available. They were able to watch it, and Junie went and brought up. She said, "Angelo, I know you're playing an Aerodactyl deck, but it's been like 4 rounds and I haven't seen the Aerodactyl."
I feel like we should just make a LRL Twitch page so we can all just stream to it.
Yeah, I think that would be the case. Like, I would definitely figure out like a way to stream Pocket. Like, I just love playing it. And yeah, it kind of sucks that I didn't go further, but I wasn't playing like a top meta deck. I was just playing what I was relatively comfy with, what I've had a lot of fun with over the last 2 to 3 weeks. Probably switching back to Pika EX for the remainder of the Mysterious Island format until the second major set comes out in 17 days or something like that. So I'm excited for that when it comes, and probably when the new set comes out, we'll find a way to loop Pocket into an episode. But this isn't a Nuzlocke episode like podcast. It's not a Pocket podcast. We do have to go to the Victory Road that fits the podcast theme, which is the VR tour leading up to the Birmingham regionals.
Angelo, why do my packs hate me? Why do the Charizard packs specifically hate me?
Oh God, I don't know. I mean, like I went like a week last week. I think I went like 5 or 6 days of getting nothing, and then in the span of 24 hours, I pulled a Zardy-X, a Full Art Rapidash, and I finally got an Exeggutor EX via Wonder Picks.
I'm missing both Venu and Eggy, and I really want to play that deck, but I know it's not good at this point.
It's not,
but I still want.
But
I still want to, have the pieces for it.
No, and you want to play with Celebi.
Oh, I've already played with Celebi. It's my favorite card in the game currently.
I don't like it because Flipping Coin sucks. I'd say my favorite card in the game, probably Marshadow. I like Marshadow. Hitmonlee is very fun. I love playing against bad Gyarados players who just see that I'm running Hitmonlee and they just still put their 30 HP Magikarp on the bench and they're like, "What possibly can go wrong?" I'm like, "Thanks for the free
Punch
point." No, you aren't punching it. You're kicking it. You kick the fish. But yeah. We don't have these Pokemon in VGC, which is a bit of a shame. But they have a lot of Pokemon that we don't have. So first off, congratulations to Frederick Nielsen, who is a European player finishing in first place with a relatively unique look at the Miraidon teams. This isn't the standard Miraidon that we're really used to seeing. And there is one Pokemon there that is a familiar face from Regulation H that we really haven't seen outside of it. And that
Angelo, I thought that Sneasler's time was over. What happened to going back to Urshifu?
So, I did too. It should be over, but Nielsen, Frederick is a good, likable, ethical person who is not running Dire Claw like a goddamn degenerate. So it makes it a little better. Honestly, I don't think Sneasler in Regulation H, the Pokemon itself wasn't an issue. The issue was Dire Claw just making every game, adding a ton of really just luck into the game that would either sway it, that could just sway it for no reason. You can just have a 20% or so chance of just, hey, this game's going to be sleep turn, so there's nothing you can do. What's really nice about what makes Sneasler fair in this format, yes, the Unburdened set is still insanely fast. However, it's not the absolute speed ceiling. And one of the things that this Sneasler is here for is actually the mirror match. So a lot of the Miraidon in this format have switched to Terra Fairy. It's one of the best defensive Terra types in the format. Being able to click that choice specs, Hadron Engine boosted, Dazzling Gleam Terra Fairy, like Terra Fairy D-Gleam, you can get a lot of damage out there. And the Sneasler with Dire Claw, even if you're Stellar Terra Adamant, you are always missing the Dire Claw KO on the Terra Fairy Miraidon, while the Gunk Shot variant, if you're Adamant, it's always a one-hit KO against the spread that Suri used to win Worlds. And if you're Jolly, it's about a 56.25% chance to KO. And if you Stellar Terra, it becomes a 100% chance to KO. While if you Stellar Terra Jolly, you never pick up with Dire Claw, and Stellar Terra Adamant, it's a 56% chance. So this is that big damage. I'm going to pick up KOs. I believe Close Combat probably does a ton of damage. We can check right now what it does to Terapagos. Let me see what happens once the Terra Shell's broken. Once the Terra Shell is broken, Close Combat is doing it's an 18% chance to OHKO, and if you're Stellar Terra, it's a 100% chance to OHKO. The standard iteration of the bulky leftovers Terapagos. So I guess this would probably be Adamant to be able to pick a lot of stuff up. The coaching is also really great. as a way to boost up the defense on your Miraidon to make it more physically powerful, the defense on your Blood Moon or Saluna, and then of course it goes double time with your Iron Hands, which not only just makes it incredibly defensively bulky, but between the coaching boost and the Quark Drive can do a ton of damage with the Heavy Slam, the Drain Punch, and the Wild Charge.
Huh. Interesting. I really like Sneasler, man. I think it's a really cool Pokemon, and I'm very excited to see it actually do something in this format, because there's a lot of people who just anticipated this thing just falling off the side of a cliff once we got Urshifu back. So for it to like actually not only just like win a tournament, but like
this was
a large tournament like this,
tournament. It's a
big
with a
deal
lot
for a
of
Pokemon
talent
like this, man.
Yeah, and I know like people have said like, hey, maybe Sneasler could work. I think one of the big things that Frederick did is they didn't say this is a Dire Claw bot. They said, okay, what is the total kit that this Pokemon has to offer? It's my secondary fake out Mon. It's a big damage Mon with the Unburden and the terrain that Miraidon sets up. I can get my speed in. To an extent, it plays like a Scarf Waterfoo. You lose the ability to pivot with the U-turn, and of course you also lose the most broken move, or one of the most broken moves in the game, in Surging Strikes. But I believe the attack stat is the exact same between the two. Your speed is great, your bulk is great because you're getting this Unburden boost with the Electric Seed, and you also add a secondary Fake Out Mon. One of the things you can also notice with this team is that there's only one Protect on the team, and that is with Blood Moon or Saluna. So having Fake Outs along with the Farigiraf to just keep your Miraidon safe in order to get these attacks off, to get your own Terra Fairy specs, Hadron Engine boost to Dazzling Gleams, to get your Volt switches off like for speed, to just be able to sit there and click Electro Drift a lot. Like, all of that is really important. Another thing that the Sneasler does as well with the Gunk Shot is threaten the Rillaboom. Rillaboom is one of the most common answers into Miraidon because of its electric resistance and the ability to turn off the electric terrain that the team is so dependent on. So having a Pokemon here who resists Rillaboom's moves, Rillaboom in Regulation G isn't running high horsepower, it's running U-turn, Double Grass, Fake Out. And it's a Pokemon that will drop to a Gunk Shot, for especially a Stellar Terra Gunk Shot. Like, sure, you're using the move that might miss, but the amount of positives you can get out of the Sneasler on this team, it's really, really great. And maybe this is the little push that Miraidon needed to start the evolution process in terms of the different forms of play that this team can take.
I was today years old when I figured out that Urshifu and Sneasler have the same attack stat.
Well, that's the thing, and that's kind of why.
Like,
yeah,
you would think that like Urshifu being this like legendary Pokemon would have a higher stat, and then it's just like haha funny weasel thing.
Yeah.
But like obviously the big trade off there is like your bulk is way better on Urshifu if you can even like I mean sure like you have some bulk. But like your speed is the big difference on these things. Like 97 versus 120 is massive, and that's ignoring your Unburden boost, right? Like, I mean, that's like you're hitting just as hard faster. You don't need it to do really anything else.
Yeah, like you're so your one moment. Why is it's so you're hitting 344 speed. If you're 252 adamant, you're hitting 344 speed on your Sneasler. That's pretty goddamn fast. To just put this, let me just pull up Flutter. Speedy booster. So your 252 timid Flutter is hitting 307 after the booster energy. That's as fast as it's going. And so this is like as an adamant Pokemon, you're making sure that you have the fastest thing on the field. Like, the only thing that's outpacing Sneasler is, like, Scarfalecki. And while we are seeing Alecki in this format, we're not seeing Scarfalecki. And nor are people going to run Scarfalecki to outspeed Sneasler. Like, that, it's a little silly. So yeah, I mean, there's even Pokemon.
We're not even seeing like regular Alecki, so like.
Oh, we're seeing it on literally just one team, which we will probably talk. We might talk about today. But the
it's crazy to me that we're seeing more Electabuzz than we are Alecki.
They nerfed.
What has the world come to?
They nerfed it so bad, and in the grand scheme of things, Fluttermane is just better Regieleki.
Yeah.
Shout out to, like, I just thought of this. Shout out to Aaron for calling physical Eleki in Gen 8 like a month before Cybertron did a video on it. Men is just absolutely brilliant. But yeah, that's just where this team's at. I will say the only other thing to add to it, Blood Moon was the staple for this team in the early iterations. It does give you a Trick Room mode between like Farig, Iron Hands, Blood Moon. So a better slow mode than the standard team that we've seen in the past, like the team that won Worlds. Blood Moon is awesome. It's a second restricted really on this team with the amount of damage you can put out with the Terra Normal, Life Orb boosted Blood Moons and Hyper Voices, plus the helping hand from Farig. Like, you can honestly win games just with this Blood Moon or Luna alone. And I'm like, this is probably a team I might try out and give a run. It has a lot of Pokemon, a lot of parts that I really, really like to it. So what is the next, like we can either just go through the top 8 or we can kind of like pick and choose some teams.
I mean, if it's up to me, I like picking and choosing.
Let's go and pick and choose. We definitely wanted to run through the and actually just before we go into it, we can just go and look at an example of like what our standard Miraidon team still is. First off, shout out to Dr. Aaron Trailer for coming in 11th. I will be stealing you next year in USPA. And this is just to compare it. This is kind of where like the differences between the teams. You're using Ogerpon Heartflame as your anti-Zama, anti-like Rillaboom Pokemon. The Whimsicott instead of the Tornadus as your Tailwind setter, which also adds a screens element to it. And you're using this Waterfoo as a very fast, very powerful, especially with the Stellar Terra, damaging fighting type that can just put out a lot of damage and be an immediate pressure mon. So those are really just where the differences are between the teams. The other thing is you're able to run the Electric Seed on the Fergraph to just make it bulkier. But yeah, that's where the differences are between the team that won the VR challenge and this more standard Miraidon. So we can just go back here and go into another restricted.
I have a couple teams if we want to, just start picking and choosing.
Yeah, let's jump around.
I really want to talk about the 6th place team here, the Kyogre team here. Okay. Because everything above that is pretty standard in my opinion. You have 2 Miraidons, you have 2 Zamas. Zama teams are the exact same,
and we're just seeing a lot more of the Roaring Mauun on this on this Calidozo Weezing team. Apparently, the good doctor, who's not really a doctor, I think he's a nurse, Justin Knox, is the villain that VGC needs because he's the one that brought this to the international global stage.
Did you see the whole Twitter argument this week?
I saw. Okay, so I saw one person, and I'm not going to get into talk about this person because they aren't a great person. We're not going to use names. I saw one person reply, "Hi, I'm here," to like the villain thing, and the person who said we need a good VGC villain pretty much said, "No, not you." That was hilarious, and that person should not be allowed at any event with children. And that's all we're going to say about that on this
that's
podcast.
messed up. I don't know who you're talking about, and I don't want to know.
No, we don't. We're going to move on from this. But yeah, so one of the other funny things, so Sanvi tweeted, it's like, oh, people are looking for villains in VGC, and Cali S Wheezing Dozo exists, and people are like flooding like Justin Knox's server. It's like, hey, look at Sanvi. Hey, congratulations, you're the new VGC villain. Today was the NMPA draft, and Sanvi and Justin got drafted to the same team. And Justin's like, hey, buddy.
What's up?
It's all in good fun. Besides that one person. Yeah, this is a fun team. Seeing the Electabuzz as well. We saw a lot more Electabuzz, even Regulation G, be successful than Regieleki, which is just a crazy thing to think of.
So the thing I really like about this is last format I really complained about Electabuzz not really having a good damaging move. Thanks to Kyogre's Rain, you just get to thunder everyone.
Absolutely.
And I am kind of all for it.
Yeah, one of the really great things with the Electabuzz as well is it just really adds a lot of Amoonguss answers to this team. This team just doesn't, especially when you're running the Scarf Ogre with Terra Water here, a lot of Kyogres that would run Terra Grass not only as a great defensive complement to the Water type that it normally has, but also as a way to get around the Amoonguss, which is a big Pokemon in this format. If we do go down, Amoonguss was the number 5 Pokemon in day 1 usage at 29.2%, and for day 2, it shot up to 40%. Its day 2 usage was greater than Rillaboom, Incin, Bolt, Firepon, Chi-Yu, Qianpao, Giraffe. Like, the only 2 Pokemon that had more day 2 representation were Fluttermane and Urshifu Rapid Strike, which I think we can agree are 2 of the most broken Pokemon ever created. So, like,
yep.
if you're prepping for Birmingham next week, have your, especially because it's a European regional, have your Amoonguss answer. If you don't have your multiple Amoonguss answers on your team, you are going to be in a bad spot. And this player has a plentiful amount of answers to Amoonguss. Not only do we have the Grassip and Serena, but we have the Vital Spirit, Electabuzz, and the Goggles on our Chaladon, which allows it to just ignore those spores, go with a more defensive Terra typing in Ghost instead of having to stick with Grass, which is really great. One of the other things that draws my attention to, like, there's 2 things that immediately drew my attention with this team. First off is the Steel Beam on our Chaladon. It has to be there for a specific calc. If I had to guess, it's probably also for the Miraidon, which if I just pull that up.
That's the thing that drew you in?
I was getting there, because here's the thing. Carter, there was a younger Angelo 3 years ago who also read a cracked out Grimmsnarl spread plus a Dragon Steel type that had Steel Beam on it. So the Steel Beam, it is a really nice move. Honestly,
No. That's the thing about the Arch set that you're enticed by.
Oh yeah, I mean the Stalwart. We've seen Stalwart. We've seen Goggles. Like, I think I kind of explained that.
I don't know, man. It seems real funky to me.
It's a good Pokemon.
No, it is. I will agree.
With this, you're definitely leaning into the stat stick aspect of Arch.
Yeah,
you're probably going 252, maybe whether it's modest or timid. I don't know. Like, again, it's probably dependent on the Steel Beam calc. But Steel Beam, it's a consistent attack when it hits that you're probably I mean, I'll pull it up right now. Archaladon. I'll plug in Timid first, and then we'll see what it does. So Steel Beam is always picking up the world's variant of the Miraidon, which is 44 HP, 12 special defense. And
I mean, I also don't know if I would like Terra Fairy in front of the Steel type.
well, if you Terra Fairy in front of the Steel type, if you don't Terra Fairy, you drop to Draco Meteor. So it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. And Steel Beam also picks up the bulkier variant of the speed boosting Flutter that we've seen a lot of. So that's pretty much what it's for. You're picking up Flutter, you're picking up the Terra Fairy Miraidon. And this team you do want a Miraidon answer, and looking more into it, especially with Stalwart to stop the Follow Me from Ogerpon, like this is what the Arch is for. You force the Miraidon to make a Terra decision, and once that decision's made, the Arch comes in, and you're clicking either Draco or you're clicking Steel Beam. One thing to note, though, with people who are maybe saying, "Oh, well, I'll try Steel Beam on our Chaladon," if you Steel Beam into a Protect, or maybe not into a Protect, but definitely if you Steel Beam into a Miss, you still take 50% recoil. So just note that.
I'm pretty sure it's the same if you go into Protect.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if that wasn't the case.
Yeah. And of course, the other thing we're looking at here is the Stellar Terra Sucker, Assurance, Fake Out, Spirit Break, Grimmsnarl. I love a funky non-screen Scrim set.
I really love everything Grimmsnarl.
Yeah, I know.
Which, come a couple years ago is a big shock to hear. But, man, this thing is so funky. I love it. This is just incredibly wild.
Yeah, I don't know. There's probably calcs with, the Stellar Terra is probably helping you pick up, or at least do a good bit of damage into the Miraidon. The Sucker Punch, honestly, the Assurance is an unbelievable move when you have the Scarf Kyogre with both Water Spout and Origin Pulse to put up, and even just the Torn with Bleakwind Storm. Any of these moves that could do that can damage both of your opponent's Pokemon, and then allowing you to pick and choose where that Assurance damage is going to go into without fully committing into a single spot. That in itself is really, really neat. I think I always like any sort of exploration with Grimmsnarl and its moveset. It's another Pokemon that has a super high attack stat. I believe it's 115. I know its attack is its best stat. I believe it's 115. I can pull that up in a second. Nope. Give me a second. No. 120. So not 125, but still that's pretty high for attack. And if you get that Stellar Terra going as well, you're probably picking up a few surprise KOs. In an open team sheet format, the Grimmsnarl is probably not as wowy. This would be this is definitely a closed team sheet, like a global challenge menace. When people think, oh, they're just doing the screens Kyogre with leftovers and Calm Mind, and you just start swinging with Scarf, Water Spout, and freaking Sucker Punches. It just absolutely degenerate stuff. And shout out to Li Yu-Chi for coming in 6th place and winning $100 with it.
The real reason I wanted to look at this is my queen. I love Serena. Grimmsnarl is also obviously really cool. And then you actually look at it and you're like, hold on. What is going on here?
The Serena is legitimately one of the most normal Pokemon on this team. The Terra Ice, Power Up Triple Axles, wide lens, it's pretty standard. I think
it's fine, right?
Comparatively, I think the only difference we've seen Serena drop Protect for Taunt, which would be useful on this team. I think the one thing going into it, This, especially if you're running the Scarf Kyogre, a harder Trick Room team is going to give it trouble. I think the benefit here is your standard Trick Room mode team is the is Calyrex Ice, and the Cali Eye doesn't have an unbelievable Kyogre matchup to begin with, so you can just matchup check that. But like going to the team that finished in first place, that Blood Moon for Rig Iron Hands mode probably just completely messes up this entire team. And maybe having something like Taunt on the Serena Overprotect could help that out. Also, there's four protects on this team already. You can drop to 3 protects and just have Taunt, just as a way to stop. Like that's probably the only thing I really change on it. And then maybe if you want a normie Grimmsnarl set, then sure, whatever. But what's the fun in that?
It's crazy to think that the wild Pokemon, like the one I really didn't expect to see do well, is the most normal set here.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like we have seen different iterations of the Serena on different Kyogre teams. I know locally, one of my USPA players, Ronald, loves using Serena next to the Kyogre. I believe Chase had it there at some point. I've seen it a lot. But yeah. So where do we want to go next? I have a team in mind. In 9th place, to just play the opposite side of Kyogre. You want to dive in there?
What team? I'm sorry.
9th place.
Yes, absolutely.
So 9th place. This is we're going now out into the sun. After being in the rain, this is a Groudon team. The Peyton Manning to Kyogre's Tom Brady, so to speak. And Groudon's another Pokemon that we really haven't seen a ton of. And even Kyogre. It's really funny that these two Pokemon are usually the absolute standard bearers and pillars of restricted formats. And in the single restricted Gen 9, like Regulation G format, they're like the 6th and 7th or 7th and 8th. Like, yeah, the 6th and 7th best restricted, which is just wild to think of. This team dives a lot more into the use of of these very powerful photosynthesis Pokemon powered by Drought, with both Gouging Fire as a way to use Howl to mitigate any sort of intimidate spam against the Groudon, and of course the Life Orb Terra Electric Raging Bolt, which once you're in the sun, if you commit to that Terra Electric, the Thunderclaps and Thunderbolts are going to be picking up almost everything in the format, even at neutral. Combine it with two absolute crazy offensive set Pokemon in Xianpao and the Choice Band Urshifu Single Strike, and the support of Volcarona, and this is a team that can really make games get out of hand very quickly.
I really wanted to talk about this team because, like, I think the double fire type in Sun is obviously very cool. Gouging Fire is just a mod I really like in general. I think the Gouging Fire, Qianpao, Urshifu thing, like that, all the physical attackers with Qianpao is sick, and then having multiple proto users is also really sick next to your Groudon. There's just so much about this. I'm just absolutely, I love this, and I'm so upset that there's not also a Walking Wake just so you have all 3 of them. I understand why there's not, but
you said you want to be Fluttermane food, which honestly this team is Fluttermane food.
You said you wanted 4 weaknesses.
You're saying you literally want Miraidon to click Terra Fairy D-Gleam and nothing else.
No, it's fine because then you have Qianpao to make them sad. You just punch them.
The last Reg G local I went to, guest on the pod, on the little record, Anthony Launderdon, he was using Groudon at the time because he was in his degenerate gambler phase, and I was playing Miraidon, and we played each other in the cup, and he was the only Groudon player at the entire tournament, and I'm like, oh god, I didn't want to play you. And it was like a close 3-game set, but Groudon always beats Miraidon. Neither of us do much better at the cup. We get into the challenge. We dive into that. Like round 2, we're matched up again, and I look at him and I'm like, it's literally just going to be which one of us hits Draco Meteor and which one of us hits P-Blades. And, he hit P-Blades. Only time the entire day he hit P-Blades was against me. I think, yeah, honestly, there's aspects of the team, especially in terms of the offensive pressure and the typing to an extent, but more so the offensive pressure. Like the Chien-Pao with this banded Darkfu gives me like the same vibes as the Nutcore from Series 7 of Generation 8, where you were using Darkfu but with like Thunderous to either boost its speed with max airstream or to boost its attack stat output with the max knuckle. Like that's the kind of vibe I'm getting with like this duo here. It's very hyper offensive. It's a very oppressive lead to start, and it's one of those leads that says, I don't care what you return with. If my Pokemon move first, I'm going to knock out whatever's on your side of the field. Like resist. There's not much that actually resists even if you resist the Terra Dark Sword of Ruin boosted, Choice Band boosted, Wicked Blow. Do you actually resist it? Like, it's one of those screw your damage calcmons that is just always fun to play with.
So what made me really want to talk about this team, I was looking at NetDeck's doubles teams before this. I don't have a problem, you have a problem. And there was a Gouging Fire Stack Attack team that I found that I really want to play with.
Okay, not VGC related with you bringing up Stack Attack, but it's just something I think of. When Gen 7 came out, I kind of just didn't like it. And it took me like playing VGC where the Tapus and the Ultra Beasts, the crimes I would commit to get those back in the game, especially the Tapus. Like this game is just so much healthier if Tapu Fini exists. Is it not?
I mean, isn't Tapu Fini just like Rillaboom food at this point? Isn't it just Miraidon food at this point? Like,
there is a world where I'm able to just throw Tapu Fini on my Regulation E or Regulation F for Rig Blood Moon teams, and like I'm just fixed as a human being.
Angelo, hear me out. Play NetDeck's doubles. You can do everything you want in NetDeck's doubles.
I can. Well, I mean, we'll probably. If my prediction on Generation 10 is true, first of all, it's going to be coming a lot quicker than you guys think, and secondly, we'll be playing with Mega Evolutions again in 2026. So
I think you're so out of it. I don't think
I'm calling it. It's going to be like a Q1, like early Q2 release, and we're going to have Mega Evolution.
Nope.
Call me crazy, because I am.
Okay, crazy.
Because I am, but I'm going to be right.
I don't see that happening whatsoever. I don't think that with, like, based on what we've had in the past, like based on past experience, the Legends games are not going to impact VGC whatsoever. So we're not going to be able to like.
But they're going to want to get the new. If they put, I'll put like a caveat on this specifically for the Mega Evolution. If they make new Megas, they're going to want us to play with them on the fun big screen. At some point,
I will agree.
At some point, we will get
except for the
that.
fact that we had the Hisuian Pokemon come in, and in the generation that they were introduced, we never got to play with them.
I also think that it's that Legends that the Legends ZA is going to be a Gen 9 game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think we're getting Megas anytime soon.
Yeah, no, we're getting them in Gen 10.
No, we're not.
Yeah,
You're so out of it.
I,
Show me one example of when we've gone back to a previous like gimmick.
Generation
Exactly,
7.
You can't.
Generation 7. Where we
You
had
mean the game that had literally everything, and in my opinion, like one of the least fun formats I've played.
Yup. Get ready.
I don't see it happening.
Z moves.
I think they've learned a lot since then.
They have, and maybe it's just like I wouldn't say even cope for me, but yeah,
it's the Pokemon boomer in you that makes you just really want to like get to do the thing again.
The fact that Mega Evolutions are like, or just X and Y in general are it's like been 14 and a half years. Like I was a college freshman when those games came out. I was a month into my actuarial science degree that I don't use anymore.
What games?
XY. That was October 2013.
Yeah, that would have been my freshman year.
Yeah, because we're the same age.
That's not true. I'll be 30 before you.
Old man.
You're not 30 yet, right?
No, I'll be 30 in September.
Yeah, shut up then. Respect your elders.
Okay. What other team do you want to talk about?
I don't know. I hadn't got that far.
Okay. So while you look, I'm just going to dive.
There's a Koraidon horse team.
We'll get there. I will just so we can kind of show where all of the different at least all the different key restrictions are leaning. Terapagos, this is an iteration on the setup version that we've seen. There were 2 setup Terapagos that made top 16. You did have the more standard, no, not top 16. I apologize. Top cut, which was top 21. You do have in 21st place the more standard setup Terapagos with Incineroar, Waterfoo, Fire Pawn, and Flutter. This is a variant that has been popping up recently. Instead of running the Fire Pawn and the Rillaboom, you are running Raging Bolt and Amoonguss. So you aren't as overlapping on types as you are previously. You're adding a secondary super bulky attacker in this AV Raging Bolt. And of course, a lot of bulk in the Amoonguss as well. The downside with this, you have to run the Terra Grass on Fluttermane, again, to give you a third potential Spore immunity. One of the biggest weaknesses with Terapagos is the fact that you can become Amoonguss food. A well-played Amoonguss can kind of shut this entire team down, specifically by shutting the Terapagos down. So having an Amoonguss of your own, the Goggles Incineroar, and a Fluttermane with Terra Grass, that is pretty useful. This Flutter is also using the Icy Wind and Thunder Wave. While the Thunder Wave is super useful, and both Icy Wind and Thunder Wave are super useful, another tech you can put on this team is the Taunt over one of those 2 tech moves on the Fluttermane in order to stop a Trick Room from going up, and of course to stop an Amoonguss from just spamming Spore against you.
So I don't like turtle teams.
I
don't know. I think they're all too mid-rangey for me. They're too balancy. I don't like them.
There's just something in the back of my head where I'm like, I just love clicking like fake out Spore and then like Rage Power. And then
that's you.
Clicking
that is the balance player in you.
And flipping and switching your incident. I mean that's just the whole group. Like literally every single person, almost all of the players in Cats, what it ends up being when we're all just stuck on a team is, have we just tried iterating on Instant Amoonguss in this format? And usually it works out.
Hey, did you know playing 2 good Pokemon is good?
Yeah. Like the only thing, it literally, like that's just what it is. And honestly, this is probably a team I'm probably going to pick up at some point, relatively soon.
You would.
I also love turtles. I mean, just the tanks. I need to get her tank cleaned. What are you doing? She's like giving me side eye.
Yeah, probably because you're talking about bad teams. No, that it's not.
This is
actually bad. This team's actually really good. It's not for me.
No, no. I fed you this morning. That's usually honestly, turtles are the sassiest pets, or one of the. They're sassier than you can think, than you would think. Anyway, here's the horse. Oh my god, that's freaking lefties.
That's a horse.
I
was not ready for this.
You just saw the glass rear and you thought, and you were like, "Oh wait, it's 2020."
I saw it and went, "Hell yeah, pony time!"
And we go and it's like, "Oh no." Yeah, this is a glass rear set that I'm pretty sure at some point Matt has texted me at like 3 a.m. my time, and just waking up to see that bullshit.
To be fair, that's like noon for him, so.
Which is worse because I'm at, like, if it's 3 o'clock for him, like, he should be having just dumb drunk thoughts. A lot of this like, it's like, so you look at the Rillaboom.
This horse is unkillable.
It really is.
And like iron defense, and then you have miracle, like if grassy terrain. This thing is unkillable.
It probably just dropped. I mean, we can just.
Nerd. I mean, it folds to like any special move, right? Like,
oh, that's what I'm doing. I'm like just seeing, like just say you're 252 or whatever. Like
you're probably max HP, max defense, right? That's probably not completely accurate, but I like the idea.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're 252, I'll pull up. Careful. So if you're 252, 252 plus 252 HP, 252 plus special defense, Miraidon's Electro Drift is doing 81.6 to 96.1.
So you're saying you live?
You live.
Interesting.
But like, that's
enough. That's all you need to say.
If you are not like the let's just say if you're not, let's just say like if you're 252-4, Miraidon is always picking you up with Electro Drift. Like the only way Miraidon is not always picking you up is, let's see, you have to be. You have to be 252, 116 special defense, and that's when it starts becoming a roll. So yeah, like this thing gets blown up by Miraidon. And honestly, a lot of the Pokemon on this team kind of get blown up by Miraidon. That's where you have the Rillaboom, the Raging Bolt, the Fluttermane to an extent, that being a Sashmon. Because like especially this Terra Fairy variant, even with the Assault Vest, like you have to commit the Terra to the Koraidon for you to live anything. The Chi-Yu doesn't like getting attacked by stuff, and of course the Chi-Yu, when it's out for you, it's helping the opposing Miraidon attack down any of your partner Pokemon. But outside of the Miraidon, like getting the Orichalcum boost, it pretty much helps 2/3 of your team. The Fluttermane and the Raging Bolt get your photosynthesis, the Sun makes your Heat Wave, and the Overheat absolute nukes, along with the Beads of Ruin on the very fast choice Scarf Chi-Yu. And it also lets you get that attack boost that the ability gives to the Koraidon, and also boosts up your Flare Blitz and your Flame Charge. So like a lot of great Sun synergy here. The Glastrier, it like, yeah, and if you aren't up against Miraidon or like these big special attack teams, you go Terra Water, you click Iron Defense a few times, and between the Grassy Surge and the leftovers, this Miraidon isn't dying. I don't even know. I'm still talking about offense. This Glastrier isn't dying.
Yep. I love it. It's so funny.
It's crazy to think like that Glastrier and Spectrier, like not the calyrex forms, but like there was a point where glass like a lone Glastrier and Spectrier were just legitimate bona fide threats, and just one generation later they're just afterthoughts. Look, Glastrier and Spectrier were legal in Regulation F, and they got zero play.
Absurd. Like, genuinely absurd to me.
Like it like literally like, and same with Aleki. It's like these Pokemon that when they were introduced last generation and during DLC, so it was a late point in last generation. These Pokemon were just absolutely dominant, and now it's like, oh, Glacier, that's adorable. Haven't seen that in 4 years. So
yeah, it's pretty funny. I don't know. This seems really unique, and there's a lot of things I really like about it. So
it is really fun. And it is showing a part of the more unique aspects of this regulation. It's not unique in the sense of Regulation H, where it felt like every other week some random Pokemon was just, oh, I'm the main protagonist of the week. But it's unique in the sense of, yeah, Glacier could kind of work in this format for something, or like Serena, which is bad in literally every other format. All of a sudden, it's a key fixture or one of the key fixtures on a top end meta team. We can probably find another team here looking at one of those. Actually, we can just take a look at Calyrex Ice here with Nil Shatler, who finished in 22nd, 6'3", just outside of the range of Top Cut. And this is just Nils' take on the Calyrex Ice team that won World. Oh, not won World. Came in second at Worlds. And again, you see the Pelipper with the Life Orb, no Protect, being able to put out a lot of damage and a lot of pressure while supporting the team with both Helping Hand and Wide Guard. The Choice Scarf Landorus, which goes great with the Pelipper in order to be able to hit your very fast and very powerful, perfect accuracy Sandsear Storms. And then you also throw in the Calyrex Ice, and of course, like the unique Pokemon on the team, Iron Valiant, another Pokemon that has struggled in formats outside of Regulation H. In this format, it's with the booster energy. It's super fast. The wide guard support really, really helps Calyrex with all the different matchups, whether it's Calyrex Shadow against the Miraidon to stop the Dazzling Gleam spam into Kyogre. It really, really helps. While also providing coaching support to boost the damage output and the bulk on your Calyrex Ice and Urshifu Rapid Strike. And the Encore, which, I mean, Encore locking is unbelievable in this format. Getting something stuck into its Protect, its setup move, stuck into Wide Guard, and now they can't, like, you can just click a single target move. And yeah, it's not the super nuke like Glacial Lance or Astral Barrage, but you can safely make that single target play without having to worry about, oh, are they going to call my bluff and like go with a Hurricane, or are they just going to keep on sticking with this Wide Guard spam? It's honestly probably one of the best techs and best moves in the format, in my opinion.
I think that like Iron Valiant has a lot of potential in this format. It's crazy to me how little it has done, and I think a big part of that is just like its stats distribution, right? Like
this is a singles Pokemon,
and like even there, it's fine, like in all actuality. But the big problem with it is, you know, it has 130 attack and 120 special attack. Like it's a stat, you know, it can't just like be a statmon because it's wasting minimum 120 points.
Yeah. No, that's like the big issue. you can't play mixed sets in VGC.
No.
And
if this thing was like 130 attack and then like 60 special attack and like had those like, had like 104 HP and 90 special defense, this thing would be insane.
It would.
But like again, that's like min maxing the thing, right? Like, and that's obviously not something that you're able to like actually do.
I mean, they did with the other. They did with a few of the other.
And that's the thing, right? And like, look how good those are.
And like that's the thing. It's so this is supposed to be the parallel, so to speak, in terms of the base stats with Roaring Moon, and Roaring Moon is one of the most like perfectly tuned physical speedy attackers in the entire game. Like they made it like I know you said attack. Make it the foil, make it the fast special attacker, have it lean into Aura Sphere, lean into Moonblast, and still have all of these tech moves such as Encore, Wide Guard, coaching, so you can keep it with Spirit Break and make them say, okay, I want Spirit Break's tech power, not the actual damage output it gives me. Like they could have probably teched out Iron Valiant a little differently, and it would have been one of the most dominant Pokemon in VGC, or at least a very dominant Pokemon in VGC. But with the way that its stats are working out, it's more of like a 480 stat mon and not like the 600 or so, or 580 or whatever, however crazy high they have it. What is the next team? We can do a few more. Just going through where things are at.
See. Ooh, 34th place. 34th place.
I know you're like, ooh, and you're like that because it's Ditto. I feel like this is kind of standard.
It's Sash Ditto.
So a lot of the Koraidon teams in the first part of Regulation G, or at least where they ended up at, like towards like NAIC, it felt like very standard, like Koraidon, Flutter, Bolt, Chiyu, Ogerpon. Like that 5 felt very, very set. You could lean into your Flutter Chiyu mode. Raging Bolt is one of the best Pokemon ever made, and again is another one of these Pokemon that is like a quote-unquote second restricted. The Cornerstone Ogerpon was really finding its place. Fire Pond was just doubling down on shared weaknesses. Water Pond doesn't work on a team where you want the sun up. So the Rock Pond, not only having it be a type that isn't really affected by the sun either way, but the built-in Focus Sash with Sturdy is super useful. And that sixth spot was like, oh, this is your fun little tech spot. Having Ditto here is interesting. Ditto is a very fun Pokemon to use in these restricted formats. And
your opponent's restricted.
Yeah, and one of the things like for this team, like this Koraidon team, gets absolutely clapped by a well-played Calyrex Shadow, and having Ditto there to kind of copy their Cali Shadow is pretty useful. But on the other side of it, it's like that's kind of why I like the Scarf, to make sure that you're outpacing your opponent's restricted. But with the Sash, you're able to at least, like, if you lose the speed tie, you at least live the hit and then you pick up on your end, and you could probably go from there. Even if it's a 1-for-1 trade, like you lose your Ditto and they lose their like CSR. In these formats, specifically the single restricted format, your restricted is so important that if you're trading your Ditto for their restricted Pokemon and you're keeping your restricted Pokemon, in most cases you should come out the victor at the end of the day.
Okay, random question, because I don't know this interaction, and I don't know how it would work.
Okay.
Let's say your opponent has Cali Shadow plus Weezing on their side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have Ditto.
Mm-hmm.
If you Terra and then get a transform off, do you stay Terra Ghost?
Yeah.
My instinct says yes, because
you Ditto's Terra will override whatever the type is, even if you transform.
Huh. Because, like, Ditto copies their Terra type, right?
No.
Oh, really? Okay. I did not know that. I
No,
thought,
no.
like, if you transform, your Terra type becomes whatever Terra type they were.
Nope. The Ditto is all, like, the only thing that transform does not copy is the opponent's Terra type.
Interesting.
So
okay.
you're always Terra Ghost, and the reason why you're Terra Ghost is kind of for the reason why you just said. If you aren't getting the imposter off, you want to be Terra Ghost to make sure you can safely transform into whatever your target is, without being fake outbeat.
I don't think that's very likely to happen, but it is funny that like it can happen.
It absolutely can, which is why like I was running Scarf Ditto on Miraidon back in like late May, early June, and that was like one of the things talking with Dr. Aaron Trailer and a few of the other local New Englanders, and I was like, okay, what Terra type on the Ditto? And like he was like, you have to be Ghost, literally because there could be like in the literal off chance you can't transform your Ditto, and it's not just I set my Ditto in against a Wheezing and the ability is shut off. If an Ogerpon or if the spot you're sending the Ditto into, if the Pokemon across from it is a terrestrialized Terapagos or Ogerpon, Imposter will not work. So, like, actually using this as an example, like,
okay, one more time.
So, the way Imposter works is it will automatically transform to the Pokemon across from you. However, if the Pokemon across from you, I mean, of course, if it's I'm 100% sure if it's a terrestrialized Ogerpon or a terrestrialized Terapagos, Imposter will fail. And I also want to say if it's a Ditto across the board, it'll fail as well. But it absolutely fails if it's against a terrestrialized Terapagos or Ogerpon, because those Pokemon are technically different forms, specifically for the Terra, and since Ditto does not copy the Terra type, it can't copy that form.
Huh. Ditto's a weird mon, man. That's the simplest way to put it.
This is what a Brown University PhD grad had to explain to me. So Dr. Aaron Trailer, that degree of yours is going really well. Screw Microsoft. Explaining how the terrestrialization component of Ogerpon and Terapagos works with Ditto. That is what you got your degree for.
Because you need a degree to understand it.
Pretty much.
I'll say we're already at like probably close to an hour in recording.
About, yeah.
So if we want to just like hit on some of these and not really go too deep. 38th, there's a Heatran, which I think is really neat.
Haven't seen Heatran, and along with a more standard Grimmsnarl, haven't really seen Heatran in a while. It's another Pokemon that is probably really great in the Miraidon Mirror.
Terrabug hands too.
Yeah, Terrabug hands, Terrabug on the Heatran. It's another Mon that's pretty good in the Mirror match, and is also great in scaring away your the opposing Rillaboom. Pretty much if you are running a Miraidon team, if you don't have a I delete Rillaboom button on your team, whether it's Heatran, Sneasler, Volcarona, Firepond, something along the lines of that, like you need that Pokemon on the team in order for it to succeed in the current format. Also, this is the low kick Iron Hands, which I really like. Low kick against, since restricted formats, a lot of the Pokemon are heavy. It allows you to have, in a lot of cases, to have a close combat power button without the downsides of close combat, which is something I really like.
Directly below it in 39th, there's a Clefairy plus a Smeargle, which I think is really neat.
We're playing 2015 VGC, apparently.
Sing Clefairy.
Sing Clefairy, Spore Smeargle. Get some help, you sicko.
No.
this is actually the first Calyrex Shadow team that we've looked at, and it is a balanced Cali-S team. Again, we've seen a standard component, the Calyrex Shadow with Clefairy, your insanely standard Fire Water Grass of Rilla, Urshifu, Incin. And then this last spot, again, is a tech spot, and they went with the Moody Speargle with Spiky Shield, Spore, Follow Me, and Wide Guard. A lot of great tech power. If you end up with your speed boosts with the Moody, you can probably put a lot of your opponents to sleep, both in their Pokemon and themselves, because they're going to be bored out of their minds counting sleep turns.
As soon as you said tech power, my mind went, with great tech power comes great tech responsibility.
I hate you. this entire generation is just brain rotted.
What do you mean?
Oh, millennials, we're not.
I'm over here quoting Spider-Man.
Yeah, we're just
brain rotted.
You're making a over 20-year-old movie reference.
Angelo, do you know how old Spider-Man is?
Yeah, I know, but still, like, we're talking like the movies, like literally that movie came out before like some of our listeners were even born.
I'm not talking about the movies.
Yeah, but still.
Oh, I'm not really seeing a whole lot left out here.
Shout out to Stefan Ma, my dear friend, with the. I'll throw this up here real quick before we go. It's really weird because like Stefan really didn't play Kyogre much in Regulation G. This man won a regional back in Series 12 with Kyogre. He's one of the best Kyogre players on the planet, and it's like one of the things where. Okay, I just made fun of you for making a 20-year-old like media reference, and I'm about to make one as well. It's like when Rock Lee against Gara takes the weights off.
I don't get that reference.
Oh my god! A lot of our some of our listeners probably do, but it's like, yeah, he's like, I'll go play around with other restricteds. But I have Kyogre, which I literally won a regional with in my back pocket at all times. And to see him playing with Kyogre, that's just really, really great to see. Warms my heart. Not looking forward to seeing it across the table for me at a 15-point VGC challenge, but who can say?
So I was just kind of looking down here at the usage stats. Zama, Cali Shadow, and Miraidon were all tied for first on day one.
Yeah, actually, we should have talked about those a lot sooner. Great podcast, folks. Anyways.
What makes me laugh is in usage, you have like Zacian and Lunala down here, and there's 0 of them in day 2.
Yeah.
Talking about mons that just like fall off.
And also going back to our podcast from last week, the top 5 that were like our A/S tier are right here, and then the top 4 mons that we're putting right behind them are that 6 through 9 that we're seeing right here. So we kind of hit where we were looking with the usage stats. And if you want to also just round it out with the overall usage for the non-restricted Pokemon, again, as I noted earlier, Amoonguss had an unbelievable conversion rate into day 2 with 40% of the Amoonguss 40% usage in day 2, being behind only Rapid Strike and Fluttermane. We did see some day 2 drop-offs with Rillaboom, Incin, Firepon, a little bit with Giraffe.
Indeedee went from 16th to 0% in day 2.
Indeedee just isn't that good in this format. It's not as strong. Some of the risers that we would like to notice. First of all, we can note that the number of Dondozo and Roaring Moon pretty much followed each other. With something like that, we can kind of say that we were seeing a pretty much like, especially with the Tatsugiri, the 18 through 20, these were all Pokemon that were just on the same team. And that's the iteration on this Justin Knox Weezing Dozo CSR team that really made waves at Worlds. adding Roaring Moon to it has been the next iteration. And honestly, and what's funny is the Pokemon that it's replaced has, compared to Justin's original team, is the Indeedee female, which is now, as you said, a Pokemon that had pretty good usage on day one and then just completely dropped off the face of the earth for day two. Also, I would like to note that the only Blood Moon Ursaluna to make day two is on the team that won the entire event.
Neat.
Which is just pretty crazy. But yeah, there are some pretty fun Pokemon that we're seeing make both day one and day two usage. We're continuing to see a climbing Grimmsnarl, which was a Pokemon that, at least at the first few stages of Regulation G, wasn't really around. We're starting to come up and have some decent success. Insert Jay making fun of me for putting Entei in B tier joke here.
Now who's making 20-year-old references?
That was literally a year ago. Doesn't feel
in the terms of the podcast, that might as well have been 20 years ago.
Pretty much. And yeah, that's kind of just where the overall meta is. Just again, looking at everything, if you're going to one of these early Regulation G Part 2 events, whether it's Birmingham, which is this upcoming weekend, San Antonio, which I believe is the following weekend, if you want your safe meta pick one of these 5 here, build around it. We've shown you the standard teams so many times so far. So this was just our fun way of showing you what some of the new iterations of these Pokemon are at this stage. And hopefully we continue to see more iterations to make Regulation G more fun than it was the first time. And I realize that since Jay isn't here, I'm the one who has to do the outro.
Yep. I'm retired. Good night, everybody.
All right, here we go, folks. We're just going to do this. Thank you very much for tuning in and following us, listening to our podcast, supporting us in all of the stuff that we do. If you love this podcast, you can give us a like, comment your favorite part, comment why you are going to pick the Philadelphia Eagles to win the Super Bowl, and your answer is for your favorite host, Rose, happiness and mental well-being. If you like the podcast...
It's not a very good reason.
If you like the podcast, we also do a lot of other great episodes, other videos. We have the Littleroot Record, my interview series. We have the Genlock, which is on hold specifically for Carter to do this Blue Kaizo run, which you can find on our Twitch streaming when we do stream on Twitch, which is also I believe it's just at Mr. Missouri 25 and
Correct.
At Musical. But yes, we might be getting a Littleroot lesson specific account as well. If you want to hear all of our updates on when the streaming is going to be up, along with when any of our videos are up, our podcasts are up, you can follow us on Blue Sky at Littleroot Lessons, full pod name. And also myself, Carl, and Carter are on Blue Sky as well. Carl and Carter, it's just...
Carl's on Blue Sky?
Yeah.
I didn't think I knew that.
Now you know. So Carl and Carter both use their Twitter usernames at Musical and at Mr. Missouri 25 on Blue Sky, same as Twitter. While I am at Rose Tinted Cheeks with an H in Rose, because Rose Tinted Cheeks.
Get it.
You get it?
I don't. Can you explain it to me? Explain it to me like I'm 4.
Well, Rose Tinted Cheeks is a saying and also a song by Tyler, the Creator. And I put an H in it because I'm Ro with an H. Also catch us on podcasts, on podcatchers, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, almost at Apple Music, but, work always finds a way into this. And of course, if you really like what we're doing and you want to support us financially, help us with paying for the Riverside subscription that we use to record and edit everything. You can be one of our patrons at, I think it's Littleroot Lessons on that. Yep, still Littleroot Lessons, and you can support us monthly in order to make sure that we can record this and sound great and look cute while doing so. Thank you very much, everyone. Go Birds, and good night.
I'm gonna go beat Victory Road now.
Okay, Godspeed.